Well, just finished up watching WWE Elimination Chamber from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, Saturday afternoon. A good time slot for a pay-per-view, especially if you're up there trying to record a video like I am right now. A good show overall, and I'm going to give you a few takeaways. Now, we're going to recap all of this event this upcoming week on our weekly podcast, Heel to the Face. So if you're not subscribed to that, make sure you are subscribed, because that's a good 30-minute to 1 hour recap of everything in the world of professional wrestling that is worth talking about for the week. But a quick little just post-Elimination Chamber video. My takeaways from the event: overall, a good event. I do like that currently the time is 2:52 Eastern Time, so about a 2 hour and 50-minute event, a traditional pay-per-view length event. None of these 4 5-hour events like we're used to in Saudi Arabia. Those have kind of come down as of late. But if you remember the greatest Royal Rumble, the first ever event in Saudi Arabia, you had a 50-man Royal Rumble event that lasted 1 hour and 20 minutes. And that was only one match of a 10-match card. It started at noon Eastern for me and ended about 5:30 to 5:45, so it was like 5.5 hours, way too long, especially for the fact that, you have these other major events like WrestleMania, which it was only like 2 weeks after, so it really made WrestleMania look silly when you put on this massive event afterwards. But today, a regular length pay-per-view, regular Elimination Chamber. Great to see just one of the traditional pay-per-views in Saudi Arabia, so we're not getting these add-ons like these Super Showdowns or these Crown Jewels kind of, pigeonholing their way between the traditional WrestleMania schedule. This, as they announced, is the last premium/pay-per-view event before WrestleMania, so we're going to get a good 6-week build heading into WrestleMania following this, which is always nice to see. And overall, like I said, a good event. Start off top of the show, we'll start with the kickoff show. Rey Mysterio, the good guy, obviously getting the win on The Miz at about 9 minutes and 15 seconds on the kickoff show. The Miz felt like he got a little taken advantage of, obviously, because Rey Mysterio had Dominic Mysterio at his side. But later in the show, kind of to piggyback off of this match, The Miz, in an interview later during the pay-per-view proper, said that he plans to return and have a tag team partner of his own. Cody Rhodes, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Jake Paul. I mean, these are some of the names that are out there. I would bank more or less on the Jake Pauls of the world. I think when Cody Rhodes eventually makes his way to WWE, I hope they give him a little bit better start and spot than a tag team partner with The Miz, especially for the fact that I think he's going to come back as a face. And Jake Paul is one of those celebrities that a lot of people do not want to see this year at WrestleMania. I don't think they wanted to see him last year at WrestleMania, so he'd fit right in as one of these quote-unquote bad guys to team up with The Miz, whether it be on these upcoming Raws or SmackDowns, or most likely at WrestleMania. The show proper led off with Roman Reigns against Goldberg, and good showing by both guys. Goldberg a decent showing, but for the most part, Roman Reigns just dominated this. This whole build-up to this match really meant not much, because Roman Reigns dominated Goldberg. He didn't end up getting the pinfall or getting Goldberg to tap out, but it was a referee stoppage by technical submission. And I hope for the time being this is the last we see of Goldberg. But what we've learned is, unlike the Brock Lesnars of the world and some of these other people who suffer these bad losses and go away forever, Goldberg comes back like this never happened. Goldberg will come back and challenge Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar or somebody in the future like he hasn't just been on this losing streak. Like he didn't lose at WrestleMania 36, like he didn't lose at SummerSlam, and like he didn't lose today. He'll act like he's still this dominant guy who can't be beat, despite the fact that he keeps getting beat and not showing up and getting beat pretty handedly. I mean, this was a 6-minute match, and it was mostly Goldberg the whole way through. It was mostly Roman Reigns the whole way through. Goldberg had some offense, but for the most part, Roman Reigns got the win, and he did it in a technical submission way, so it didn't make Goldberg look unbelievable, horribly. You had the referee stop this match, so it wasn't a pinfall or submission. But Roman Reigns, still your champion like many predicted. The next match on the card was the Women's Elimination Chamber, which got a little people confused because they aired this big long vignette for the Men's Elimination Chamber, so many people thought we were getting that match. Ended up being the women's match. Now, some things about the Women's Elimination Chamber to take away is, one, they were obviously all very covered up, but we've come a long way from, one, women not being on the card, to then women being on the card having to wear, loose t-shirts that do not look anything like their characters, aka Natalya and Lacey Evans in the first women's match in Saudi Arabia, to them wearing full outfits that match their characters. If you saw them come out and this was the United States. You probably wouldn't have thought elsewise with what they were wearing. They were fully covered up, no arms showing, no legs showing, but for the most part, their outfits looked like they were supposed to be there. Nothing out of the ordinary. They showed off their characters, and it really solidified home. You can say what you want and hear me out on this one, but hey, the fact that they were fully covered up really kind of put out there that we were here to watch them wrestle and to show off their talents. And there is no better way and no place higher for this women's revolution to have obtained than the fact that they are not in any way, shape, or form showing off their bodies, and yet we are 100% still invested in these matches. The one thing I noticed about this Elimination Chamber, very quick. It seems like every 90 seconds somebody was coming out of a pod. The whole match lasted 15 minutes and 45 seconds. Back in the day, Elimination Chamber matches could be a good 30 to 35 minutes plus to show you exactly how long they're supposed to last. Traditional Elimination Chambers in the past would open a pod every 5 minutes. This time, obviously not that, because everyone was out of their pods and the whole match took place in 15 minutes and 45 seconds, finishing off with Bianca Belair beating Alexa Bliss. Alexa Bliss was the last one to come out of a pod, Bianca Belair was the last one to come out of a pod. She didn't have to last too long. She beat Alexa Bliss. I don't really know what you do with Alexa Bliss here. A lot of people are kind of confused because it didn't seem like we have a different Alexa Bliss character. It seems like the same character that went into the therapy that she's been having. So I guess if she didn't change much from therapy, then really what was the idea behind that entire storyline on Monday Night Raw each and every week? Because it seemed like the same old Alexa Bliss prior to her going away. So Bianca Belair clinched her spot in one of the women's matches at WrestleMania. A tag team match after that, that's a Naomi and Ronda Rousey. They won this tag team match pretty decently. It was about a 9-minute and 15-second match. Ronda Rousey actually was a little creative in how she was covering herself up. She came out in, her Taekwondo kind of robe that you would see her perform at in Olympics, in which she was and won, I believe, a medal in the Olympics. So she wore that robe out to the match. And she ended up getting, with one arm tied behind her back, the victory with Naomi against Charlotte Flair and Sonya Deville. This just seemed like a SmackDown style of match, not really much of a pay-per-view caliber, just showing off these guys, especially Ronda Rousey on the big stage, like Saudi Arabia. Another match that didn't really need to happen, but Drew McIntyre, obviously the good guy, he's going to beat Madcap Moss in this Falls Count Anywhere match. Drew McIntyre beat Madcap Moss pretty handily. Happy Corbin, with the Falls Count Anywhere stipulation, came out early in the match and helped this be a 2-on-1 match, but later on Drew McIntyre scared Baron Corbin back to the locker room, and it ended up being a pretty easy win for Drew McIntyre, as expected. He is the name, he is the face. You could look at it like a house show result. Drew McIntyre picked up the win. The Women's Championship match from Monday Night Raw that saw Becky Lynch beat Lita went 12 minutes long, and Becky Lynch and Lita, good match overall. Lita, you can tell, with a few small botches here and there, but either way, showed her own, showed that she belonged, was one of the longer Women's Championship matches on the night, only 3 minutes shy of the entire Elimination Chamber match, so it definitely showed that she belonged, she was showing her own, and the match actually ended kind of anticlimactically. It was Lita pulling all these finishing moves off, and Becky kept kicking out of it, and finally Becky with a finishing move and a 1-2-3. Like I said, a little anticlimactically, because it was Lita pulling off these finishing moves in which you thought she was really going to get the pin, but Becky kicking out at 2.5 and 2 3/4, and eventually picking up the victory. They ended up playing Lita's music at the end to kind of show off how much the fans still love her and how much she really truly belonged in this match, and how she, quote-unquote, still got it. The final match of the night before the men's chamber was the Usos against the Viking Raiders, and that match never happened. And it was one of those matches that I was wondering if it was going to happen, if it was going to get scrapped from the card, because it looked like they were running short on time if they wanted to keep this under 3 hours. So what they did is essentially have the Viking Raiders come out, the Usos come out and attack them, pretty much leaving the Viking Raiders helpless. The Usos ran off with their tag team belts. This match never happened. It ended in a no contest. I don't know where the storyline goes from here. I guess it's just a good, quick payday for the Viking Raiders and the Usos, preferably for the Usos, who obviously get to keep their championships without even having to defend them. The main event itself was the men's Elimination Chamber match. Brock Lesnar, Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles, Austin Theory, Riddle, Seth frickin' Rollins. You wonder how they're going to have Brock Lesnar win this, because you know he's going to win this, but how are they going to have him win this while having Bobby Lashley look good? Well, here's how they had him win this. Bobby Lashley was taken out of the match when Seth Rollins threw Austin Theory through Bobby Lashley's pod, injuring Bobby Lashley, then removing him from the match. When it came down to Bobby Lashley's time to enter the match, Brock Lesnar said, forget this, and entered himself in, broke through his own pod, and then just eliminated everybody. AJ Styles, Matt Riddle, Seth Rollins, and then got to Austin Theory. And I have to say, a very entertaining way to end this match. Austin Theory held his own, a low blow to get the best of Brock Lesnar, tried to escape through the top of the chamber, climbing all the way to the top. Some good moves by Theory, some good punishment by Brock Lesnar against Austin Theory, ending out with Brock Lesnar, an F5 to Austin Theory off the top of one of the pods, finishing the night, making it official. It's going to be a champion versus champion match. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, WrestleMania, just about 42 days away. How are they going to, move on from this with Bobby Lashley? That's a good question. What is Bobby Lashley going to do? Because he never returned to this match. He essentially never lost his championship, which is good in a sense because, yes, you didn't make Bobby Lashley look bad, but what are you going to do with Bobby Lashley? I don't imagine he's going to get added into this match and make it a triple threat. I imagine they're going to do something else with him, but what? And I guess that's the good question, because now it's going to make us want to tune into Monday Night Raw this week to see what's next for Bobby Lashley and what's next for everybody else, from AJ Styles to Austin Theory to Seth Rollins. The road to WrestleMania really is going to kick off pretty good this week on Monday Night Raw with the final WWE Premium Live event / pay-per-view before WrestleMania now in the books. And one final takeaway from Jeddah is that I know you probably heard it heading in, and you probably heard it all through the show, of them hyping up that this is the biggest concrete dome in the world, the Jeddah Superdome. And to those who wouldn't know any better, when you keep saying that, you think AT&T Stadium, you keep thinking the Big House in Michigan, you keep thinking how they keep saying that this is the largest concrete dome in all the world, you think that's got to fit 100,000 people. Because when you think of domes that fit a lot of people. So when they're making out the fact that this is one of the largest domes in the world, you think this is one of the biggest stadiums in the world, but that clearly, as you could see during the show, is not the case. I want to venture to say that there was less than 20,000 people there. During the entire show, you could see the upper deck, there was no upper deck. There was 4 seats, and then there was a lower bowl, like a traditional kind of football stadium that has a lower bowl, and the top of that was the top of the stadium. The roof of this dome was pretty visible in most shots. Like I said, it's hard to venture how many people this place held, but to me it didn't look much bigger than a traditional arena. Like I said, if it fit 20,000, I would say that's probably spot on the nose, but I guess the fact that the entire thing is made of concrete and the entire materials that make up this dome make it, by a technicality, the largest concrete dome in the world. The largest dome stadium in the world? It is not. The largest stadium in the world? It is not. Not by a long shot. So like I said, it looked like there was about 20,000 people in the dome, especially during the kickoff show. It looked like it was half empty, but they had to reiterate on the program that this place is sold out and it is a late arriving crowd, because they probably noticed that some of the screenshots during the kickoff show showed a lot of empty seats. But when the show started, I do admit that it didn't look empty anymore. But it was no AT&T Stadium. It is maybe the largest concrete dome in the world, but it is not the largest dome stadium in the world. And it's not the largest stadium that they've gone in Saudi Arabia on their trips, especially to Jeddah or Riyadh or any of the other places they've gone. But either way, a good show overall, good Elimination Chamber matches, not a long show, a traditional length pay-per-view, which is what I like to see, because if you're going to use these Saudi Arabia events, you might as well just put them in the traditional pay-per-view slots, like the Elimination Chamber slot, or in October in the slot that normally at Hell in a Cell. A perfect spot for these pay-per-views to be just treated like pay-per-views. Nothing special, nothing unique, nothing like we saw before where these matches just happen with no storylines. This pay-per-view was treated like if it was happening in Hershey, Pennsylvania, or if it was happening in Toronto, Canada. That's the kind of event they put on, while sprinkling in some of the part-timers like Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, making it an overall pretty solid pay-per-view event. Like I said, this upcoming week, we will recap this entire pay-per-view event on the Heel to the Face podcast. We will talk about Monday Night Raw that happens this Monday night, as well as anything else that happens in the world of professional wrestling, AEW, things worth noting, and of course, things we didn't talk about last week, like The Undertaker being in the Hall of Fame, how we feel about that, how we feel the Hall of Fame should be treated, so much more. So subscribe and watch the Heel to the Face podcast, as this has been a WWE Elimination Chamber review.